Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Table. And today I am so honored to have Pastor Quinton Carter back in the house.
Go.
And so he's family, and just so glad to have a conversation with you, Quinton, and so proud of you, excited about what God's doing in you and Abby and your boys and the impact you're making at YFN. And
thank you.
I'm just excited, man.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I had so much fun this summer. Just really, I enjoyed the speaking and the teaching, but I really just enjoyed watching you guys hang out in those rooms and just lead a generation, man, to encounter the Lord and really just to become, really not next leaders. They're leading now.
Right.
And so it's just exciting to watch you guys.
Thank you.
Really in your element.
I'm excited to be home. I love you and Pastor Jana and the whole family. But yeah, I think you had fun. I can tell you we had more fun having you with us. And we've just heard unreal testimonies, so much joy from people that received from your ministry this summer. Wow. Like literally people are like, who is that? And I'm just telling people, I told you that's my dad. I told you he was coming, he's going to bring it. And so it was so good.
Wow.
So good.
It was so fun. And it's easy when you have a generation that's hungry.
Right.
And I really believe, and that's kind of where I want to talk today, a little bit about this generation. And, how we can really help them succeed. I believe that people succeed by standing on the shoulders of others.
Yeah.
And I think one of the dumbest things that we could say to anybody is, well, I had to learn it the hard way. You learned the hard way.
You learn, yeah.
If I know where a pothole is, let me tell you where it's at.
So you don't hit this, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so what are you finding so attractive about this generation?
Yeah, I think they're so hungry for the real thing. So I think previous generations were so fixated on relevancy or being relevant, trying to connect. Let's take what culture is doing and let's try to build a bridge to the next generation. And now we have a generation that's just like, we don't need the lights. Yeah. We don't need the jazzed up sermon or even ministry, just an authentic relationship, that somebody that really cares about me. And you find that a lot of this generation are identifying a lot more with grandparents than even parents.
Yeah.
Because the parents are so unstable, changing all the time. The home feels very rocky. And so when the parents aren't stable, this generation's looking for stability. And so they see it in the older generation. And so we find a lot of young people that so think like grandparents are it, And so then you see it in the fits, you see it in the fashion, you probably have seen like your 80s fashion is coming, 90s
back, baby.
fashion, they're locked in with it because they're just like, they're done searching for, the new and the flashy.
Right.
And they're looking for something of substance, something of meaning. And so I think it presents a very beautiful opportunity for us in the body of Christ to really focus on the real thing, focus on being moms, dads, fathers, mothers, having sons and daughters, loving our own home.
Yeah.
And because that's also what a generation is craving, and so that's what me and my wife have been seeing. We get a lot of students that ask, how do you guys handle your marriage? How do you handle loving your kids, and doing all of that with ministry? So they're not even asking how to preach or how to lead or do any of that. They're like, how do you love your family? And so I think it's a beautiful opportunity to get to the real thing.
I think, if I can categorize that, maybe in one word, is they're just looking for authenticity.
Yeah.
That which is authentic, genuine, real. And it's funny because you mentioned some of the fashion of the 80s and early 90s coming back. I saw someone walking down the hallway today, and I was like, I need to rescue them. Which kind of leads me into my next question because, in life, you have people who are mentors, you have people who are coaches, you have people who are consultants in your life, but then you have spiritual fathers.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't think you need one. I think you need some of all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think one mentor is going to do it.
Right.
You need to have mentors that are strong in different arenas of your life.
Absolutely.
You need coaches in your life.
Yes.
But then you do need to have that spiritual father.
Absolutely.
And so talk to me about the difference in that, because we kind of touched on that this summer when we were having a conversation, and it began to reawaken you're thinking about 90s. That's when spiritual fathering came into really the context, and the conversation was in the 90s, but it kind of got messed up.
Right.
And so, but that doesn't mean God throws the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly.
Let's just change the water and look at it again.
Let's make sure that we honor the model. And I think it truly, fathering and mothering is the model of New Testament church. You look at Paul to Timothy, you look at Peter to his sons, and he even writes in 1 Peter, I believe, chapter 5, he says, and so does Mark, my son.
Yeah.
And so so the language of fathers and mothers is very much the way that God birthed the house and birthed the church. And so I think you're absolutely right, though. There's been a lot of spiritual abuse or manipulation and just weirdness that came into ministry in that space. And I think that there's an opportunity to do it right. And you've done it right in our heart and in our life. You've been such a true father. And I believe that a father is one that obviously models what the Heavenly Father is, that he lays his life down, that he makes sure to provide and to support. But even at the beginning of what you said here today of letting the next generation stand on your shoulders versus making the next generation serve you and your platform.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of it got kind of weird, is that people that said, I want to be a father, but they really wanted someone with their gift to support their ministry for their name or different things. When a real father wants the son to outrun them.
Absolutely.
I want the daughter to go further than I could ever go. That's the heart of a father. And you and Pastor John model that so well. And I think a generation's craving that. But when I think about the difference between mentor, coach, father, a mentor for me is someone that they are successful in the area you want mentorship. Okay. So if I want a finance mentor, they better have it together in finances, or why are you mentoring me, So it should be someone that has a grasp on the area you're wanting to grow. And so you can get multiple mentors.
Let me jump into that, because I think what you just said was so key. And if you're going to look for a mentor, first you got to know what you need to be mentored in.
Right.
And then find them in that arena that they're successful.
Right.
But don't make them be successful in everything.
Exactly. You can't make them your all in all.
Yeah. And so I think sometimes we see someone that is very strong. We'll just pick in the area of finance. They're strong in the area of finance, but we see them weak in some other areas. So we just dismiss everything they say. Yeah. And I think that's just so tragic.
Right. Because you're not expecting someone to... maybe they've grown in a certain area. You can't expect them to be everything that you need. Yeah. But I think that you're right too. For example, and you had taught me this, that you can read from different authors that they got a firm grasp on something. Yeah. I'm not reading for their theology. Yeah. I'm reading because they understand how I need to handle some things in my household or handle some things in my business. And so, so you can grow and be mentored by different spaces.
That's so good.
That you, like you said, you identify, where do I need to grow, and can I get a mentor in that space? And then a coach is someone that I believe rallies in your life and really calls greatness out of you. Oftentimes, I think that coaching so similarly can be a portion of fathering, because I think as a father, and I'll just put it in my context, right now I've got 2 boys, and right now Uriah, he's 6 years old. I'm not talking to Uriah the way I did when he was 3.
Right.
When he was 3, I was saying, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Don't touch the stove.
Yeah.
Now he's 6. And now I'm asking, what do we say? What do you think you should do?
Yeah.
Right. I'm asking him questions to pull things out of him.
See, that's good coaching.
Yeah.
A good coach, they champion you, but they also ask questions that cause you to look into what you know,
exactly,
what you have observed, what you have seen, so that then you can respond properly. I mean, that's so good.
Yeah, so I think it's an art. I think it's a part of the heart of the journey. But that's where I would classically consider, and I believe a coach can help you with multiple areas of your life, but I really feel like a coach identifies or focuses more on you, whereas a mentor will focus more on a certain area that you're looking to grow in.
That's good.
And then whereas you have a father and a mother, and I think that fathers and mothers are those that are with you for life, and many times they can encompass the mentor, they can be a part of the coaching. But I believe you can have multiple mentors that may not be a father, a coach that may not be a father. But for me, too, the other thing that identifies a father is almost like a sounding voice that will, hey, listen, I've got some decisions on the table, but I really want to hear what the Lord's speaking through you. And there's been times, there were times that I brought some things to you and you were like, listen, I don't see it, man.
Yeah.
I don't. I was giddy. I was like, man, I feel like this is what we need to do. And you're like, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
And I honored it, and God honored it. Yeah. And it truly saved us many times. And so I think having a father is that voice that you're going to lean to. Doesn't mean that has to be a controlling voice or a manipulative voice, but it is someone that you invite into a space that is really pure, and sacred when it's done well, and both have the hearts of understanding that obviously we're honoring the Lord, but the Lord will put people in your life to be a voice, to instruct, to strengthen, just like Paul was that to Timothy. Yeah. And vice versa.
It's sad because we talk about the abuse of the fathers, but, I've seen the other side, the abuse of sons, or those who want to be sons,
Yep.
And so we've had to navigate through the Sauls, but we've also had to navigate through the Absaloms. And, one of the words I got several years ago from, a spiritual father in my life, Bishop Tudor Bismarck, and he said, because of the grace on your life, let them come close no matter their motive. Because your grace is going to propel them and to help them. But that's hard and that's painful because, it's not always this relationship, which is amazing and awesome. But it kind of reminds me of something similar that John Maxwell said. He says, listen, when your team is around you, invest in them, pour in them, develop them, grow them, challenge them. And the guy said, well, what do you do if they leave? And he says, you celebrate. He said, but what's worse, you pouring into them and them leaving, or you not pouring into them and they stay?
Excellent.
And so as we're in the middle of our series where we're dealing with family. Mm-hmm. And I said Sunday, you train up a child in the way they should go.
Yes.
So they grow to go, not grow to stay.
Yes. Yes, sir. And I tell parents working with the next generation, I tell parents that your children are your assignment. Yeah. They're not your source. Yeah. And they can't be what you build your life around. Right. You build your life around Jesus, around his mission, around his call. And your children are the assignment in your life, but there's a day that, you got to launch them. Yeah. You're called to, they're called to step into what God has for them. And you are always there, always running with them and walking with them. But I think sometimes parents will, you're so right. They'll want to train them up in the way that the parent wants, or this is the way I see it. This is the life I have planned for you. when they're really a gift from the Lord
Right.
for us to grow, mature, and launch into their destiny. Absolutely. But as you said, the manipulation of sons, I'll never forget. I was talking with a friend years ago when I was first, my wife had gotten pregnant with our first son. And he said, Quinton, being a father is easy. He said, because it's already in you. You will naturally kick into learning how to care for your child, care for someone else, and being almost like saying like being over someone. That's natural for a man. He said, what's not natural is learning how to be a son.
Yeah. Wow.
He said, being a son is the true test.
Yeah.
And so it just hit me. It just wrecked my life, understanding that that we're all called to be sons
Yes.
to our Father. And Jesus obviously models that so well, sonship, and that we're all a part of that. And so learning to be submitted, and through my submission, liberates me,
Yeah.
And so then at the same time, learning to be a son to you, be a son to fathers or voices that God has put in my life, and learning to, submit, to learn to grow, and not to use that closeness for manipulation's sake, or that closeness for any, like you said, Absalom or any of that space,
Sure.
And learning that was truly, truly a blessing.
We, the summer, John and I got to go back, and we were in Turkey. I got to go to ancient Ephesus.
Oh, wow.
And walk through the ruined city. But I was thinking about, that's where Paul left Timothy to pastor that church that actually became the first ever mega church, to be honest with you.
Wow.
They're inside of defining whatever mega church is,
Right.
But Timothy did such an incredible job. But it's funny because when you go and you read and you look at the life of Paul and Timothy's relationship, Paul would introduce Timothy differently all through the New Testament until, and I think it was based on Timothy's growth and their relationship. And then at one time he called him, my brother Timothy.
Yes, fellow servant.
And another time a fellow servant, Timothy. Another time, my dear beloved son, Timothy. But then later he puts him in the apostle class.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a journey.
That's awesome.
Together, and that iron sharpening iron, and I think sometimes people want instantaneous. Any relationship is a journey,
right?
And so I think we throw out titles too soon.
Yes.
We try to name something before it's time, instead of let's walk this out. Right. And I find that it works. I don't care if it's in the church or in the business world. These kind of relationships work.
Yeah.
If you'll work the relationship.
If you'll work through it. And I think the thing about relationship is it costs life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot in the culture, in the body of Christ, we got to a place where we just wanted to spend the money.
Yeah.
Versus spend the time.
Right.
And so let me just hire somebody for it. Let me pay for a father. Let me pay, I think that's a lot of the idea versus, no, let me spend the time. Let this really be a relationship that, like you said, it's the cost is the cost.
Yeah.
It's going to be the time. It's going to be life. It's going to be covenant.
Yeah.
And so I think that God's doing something brand new. And while we still see, and I believe God, I never want to speak against churches or speak against ministers at all, because I believe God is moving through many ways.
Yeah.
But I do believe that God is birthing a new vision, and it does model the fathering, the mothering. The reason why I believe that is because the number one attack is the family.
It's a family.
It's, the redefining of man, the redefining of woman.
Yeah.
Like, we can't even answer what's a woman.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, and so, and then, and
all of that's to redefine the family.
And to redefine the family.
And what's funny is in Nehemiah chapter 4, when God gives Nehemiah a strategy to rebuild the city and to rebuild the gates. And the first thing Nehemiah does, after he got through crying, after he got all the building materials, in Nehemiah 4, he positioned families in front of the gates. He knew if we're going to rebuild the walls of the city and we're going to rebuild the city, I've got to first rebuild the family and put it back in its structure and its place and its rightness. And you're right, man. We see such an attack on
the family. Yeah, I tell people all the time in the garden, God did not start a church, he started family.
Absolutely.
So family is his blueprint for true discipleship, right? Yeah. The first person you grow up wanting to be like is your mom, your dad. That's the natural discipleship. And so the attack on fatherhood, the attack on divorce, the attack on sons and daughters, kind of the spirit of rebellion, all of this, and then you throw in the LGBTQ, you throw in the gender confusion, you throw in all these things. Clearly, hell knows what to go after.
Yeah.
But many times the church doesn't know what to go after.
Right.
We've got to go after family.
Got to go after the family.
Got to go after modeling it at home.
Yeah.
And then, yes, modeling it in the body of Christ. And truly embracing the fact that if we say, welcome to the family of God, where's the moms and dads?
Yeah.
Where are the sons and daughters? And learning to fall into that.
And it's, that's not an easy thing.
Right.
But it's a thing that must be done.
Right.
You've got to rise that challenge. One of the things I wanted to just bring to your attention or just have a conversation about real quick is I think for any generation, I think it's one of the greatest gifts we can give them is the gift of responsibility.
Ooh.
I was thinking about, and I've actually developed a message on. I'm going to preach it in a few weeks, but I was thinking about the parable of the talents, and which I love that parable. And you get the guy with 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, and we get lost in the talents. Mm-hmm. But the first gift he gave every one of them was the gift of responsibility.
That's excellent. Yeah.
And we look at the talent, but we don't look at, I've been given a gift. God has trusted me with a measure of responsibility.
That's huge.
And so I think as we're coaching and we're mentoring and we're fathering a generation, you have to give them responsibility.
Absolutely. So, and I'm screaming on the inside. So when you're raising your children, what's the goal? I'll never forget 2 years ago when I had my second son. I had my first son, and it was the scariest day of my life. Yeah. Because you get handed a baby and said, okay, you go home. Like, wait, you're not coming home with me? What are we doing?
I need this whole team.
The whole team, let's go. And so it was scary. The second son, it hit me that I'm responsible not to raise boys, but to raise men.
Yeah.
And Lord, what is a man? And I went on this journey of learning to embrace responsibility.
Yeah.
And you think about what's the goal of raising a son? The goal of raising your kids is that they would be wise and responsible, which means I don't need them to be, we want the dependency, but I can't have them be dependent on me.
Right.
Otherwise, I handicap them.
Yeah.
So I have to entrust them with measures of responsibility to grow up the man on the inside of them.
Yeah, I think the track, and this is very, very generic, the track is they're born dependent.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Then they learn interdependence.
Right.
And then they learn responsibility.
Yes.
And how they move from one to the other is the measure of responsibility that we give them along the way.
So then the problem is in modern culture, we got a lot of parents not giving measures of responsibility, or they want to save them.
Rescue from the consequences of decisions.
Consequences that are the best thing for your kid.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's the gift that is many times overlooked, and I think that, to be honest, I think that's what we're seeing in the next generation is a lot of young people growing up that never had to handle responsibilities, one pastor was talking to me a few weeks ago, and he said, can you imagine in the 60s, actually, I think he referenced the 50s, 40s and 50s, about how a man at that time was 16 years old.
Yeah.
You're 16 years old, you're a man.
Yeah.
You're going to war. You're providing, you're ready to go. And he said, now they're 30 and we don't know.
And we don't even know. The verdict is still out.
We don't know. And it's because they've been robbed
yes.
of the responsibility of this is what will grow you up.
Yes. And I think that comes back from being robbed of true fathers, a real dad that will champion you, that will, stand on the sideline and say, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. And he hadn't accomplished a lot. He just showed up.
Shoo.
But because he showed up, I'm pleased.
Yes.
And I think the greatest thing that a dad can do is instill their children, I'm proud of you. And it doesn't matter if it's a son or a daughter.
Yes.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Not for your accomplishment.
Exactly.
I'm not proud of your A. I'm proud that you tried.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so I remember the boys were little. I celebrated C's as much as we ever did A's because I knew that course was hard. That class was tough. I was helping to do the homework and struggling. But I celebrated because they took responsibility to do the very best they could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's championing the greatness. And you got to be willing to see who your kid is and not force them to be what culture says or what culture says is a success or what's the best in the school. That's all we can be. Versus no, let's really honor the hard work your kid did or the effort that they put in. Because that's what's going to get them over the mountain. I was a kid that I never had to really study for a test. It just clicked. I don't know what it was, but in school, especially in math or different things, if I heard it once, I got it. If I saw it once, kind of this photographic memory, I got it. So I would always stroll in, and I'd ace those tests. My wife, on the other hand, was one that had to put in the work. She's like, I'm studying the week leading up. I'm making sure to recite, get it down. It caught up to me in college. When I got into college, I didn't study. I didn't have a habit of studying. I walk into a calculus test. I said, what's this? Wait, what is this? In college, man, they don't care.
No, they do not care.
They didn't even tell me the test was today. Because they said you should have read your syllabus. You should have known. So, I ended up failing my first year of college. And then I went into ministry.
Oh, no.
So I learned, though.
Went to the College of Hard Knocks.
Went to the College of Hard Knocks. So I learned that, I had a lack of working hard because I used my talent so much. And I had to learn to put in the effort, put in the ethic, put in the hard work. Whereas my wife and people that put in that hard work and that are championed for their effort, championed for, even though you didn't get the best grade, but I saw you working hard on that. Those people are the ones that overtake those that are so talented after a bit. And so that's one of the things we're really harping hard for our sons is to champion the hard work that they put in, not just how smart they are.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Well, man, I'm going to tell you, you're an incredible dad. I do. Your boys are amazing. Uriah was, got to be 6 foot tall. He's growing so fast.
He's a giant.
And you guys are leading so well there at Christ for the Nations and YFN and what God's doing through you guys just is not just impacting a generation, but literally those kids are going home to different countries all over the world and having a huge impact, and you've heard me say 100 times, nobody gets to heaven without fingerprints on them.
That's right.
And there will be people all over the globe that, if they're finger dusted in heaven, they're going to have yours and Abby's fingerprints because of the investment you are making in students of, being a mentor to some, a coach to some, but I'm watching you guys father some as well and mother some. And so I'm excited for what God's doing.
Thank you,
and
Pastor.
man, thank you for leading so well, and thank you for modeling what it means to be a son and to do it right. That's just been so, it makes it easy to champion you guys. It really is.
You truly mean the world to us, and so just thank you for your yes. I don't want to cry on the podcast today, but I love you so much, and thank you for truly, and again, being a father, Pastor John, and being a mother. We can call you at any time. We lean heavily on your input, your wisdom, as well as just your support, and even whenever we transitioned, you launched us, you sent us, and I just thought, that's what fathers do. Fathers release the arrow because the Lord is calling targets to be hid. And that doesn't mean that the relationship has to change.
No, not at all.
And in fact, it actually just gets more beautiful, and the family continues to grow.
Yeah.
And so just thank you for your yes. And I know that God is abundantly multiplying who you are and in this house, and I'm grateful.
Well, it's fun, and I appreciate it, man, and love you guys a lot. And so, hey, thank you for joining us Beyond the Table. I want to encourage you to, whether you're in the business world, church world, or just home, I want you to have some conversations and do some thinking about how can I mentor, how can I invest in someone else. I promise you, the return is absolutely incredible. And so, hey, if you like this episode, share it, like it, tell a friend about it, maybe watch it together and then have a conversation. And we'll see you next time, Beyond the Table.